Welcome back, dear viewers. This is Maverick here with another episode of BEASTARS. The finale, in fact. This has been a great series so far. Definitely my dark horse of the season, and even my anime of the season, potentially. But all things come to an end, right? And this is quite short, only 12 episodes. But some good news, because I have learned that there has been a second season of BEASTARS announced. Now, I can't really avoid that. It is kind of a spoiler, I guess, but once these things get announced, they're basically everywhere. I can't really avoid that. The specifics, I'll look up a little bit later to see if they have announced any dates yet or whatnot. My guess, though, would be that it's going to be at least maybe 2 seasons more before we actually do see the sequel. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We still got this actual episode to go through. Now, what I'm expecting here is the, I guess, repercussions of Legoshi going through the Shishigumi group, right? He skipped class, and he's doing something that against a group that honestly has a lot of notoriety in this BEASTARS world. Like, how is it going to affect everything around him? And perhaps more importantly for me as well is what happened to Louis, right? Because we saw him get into a compromising situation last episode, but obviously he's still one of the main characters. I highly doubt that he's gonna die there, right? So let's get into the episode right now. Alrighty, I skipped the opening, and let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. This is also a weird scene as well. One of you guys mentioned that small animals have this sort of instinct in their genes to just throw themselves into prey's mouths. I don't quite get that though, like from an evolutionary standpoint, why would that be the case? Body knows. Alright. Well, that's definitely a mood killer. Really? That's it. Is he like misunderstanding the situation? Like maybe he thinks she's rejecting him because of, not because of the instinct or whatnot, but because she doesn't really want this kind of relation.
してましたよ。
学校には内緒にしてくれてるんですか？
あなたのためではありませんよ。傷だらけの上に異臭同士で無断交なんて私の口からはとてもとても。
なら報告してくれて構いません。獅子組の誘拐も外泊も事実ですから。
物騒な団体名を口にするのはおよしなさい。だいたいウサギと狼なんて言語道断。一体朝までどこにいたの？
さっきから外泊のことばかり指摘して、獅子組のことは何としてでもうやむやにする気だな。
あったら本当に承知しないわよ。分かってるの？
すみません。先輩大丈夫ですか？
あら、あなたこの
はい
はい、心配で。2匹きりにしてもらえますか？
は
ありがとう、ジュノさん。迷惑かけてごめんね。本番
あ。
も。
Oh, that's it. Juno, not Haru.
私
Sorry about that.
レゴシ先輩が戻ってくるって確信してました。
そうなの？
What about Louis?
私が部内で一番知ってるもん。狼という動物の強さ。
そっか。
なんなのこの距離感。私実は聞こえていたんです。レゴシ先輩が獅子組からウサギを救ったって。私信じます。レゴシ先輩私に言ったでしょ。同種族で触れ合うと心のリラックスにつながるって。私に触れてください。
ありがとう。
Talk about being active.
今の気持ちは穏やかだから。
何よその。俺もうあの子のものなのでみんな買おう。
Definitely interesting. Oh! Uh-oh!
このチンチクリンガレ入りますか？いや、特に用はないんで失礼。ちょっと何なのよあなた。あなたレゴシ先輩を幸せにできるんですか？はあ？初対面にしちゃご挨拶が過ぎるんじゃない？私は3年生の春よ。あなたも名乗って。
Bringing out the senpai card.
レゴシ君ったら案外モテるのね。しかも同族でこんな可愛い子。あなたでしょ？昨夜レゴシ先輩といろいろあったの。まあそうだけど、あなたが心配するような単純な関係じゃないから安心して。でもレゴシ君を幸せにか。確かにあなたにだったら好かれた時点で彼は幸せかも。何？ちょっと。
What?
なんで私連日狼に迫る？
Sniffing if there's legacies scent on her?
匂いで分かっちゃった。エッチはしてないんですか？今私に食べられるとでも思ってました？
No, I don't think so. Guess she was blushing there.
そんなことしなくても私は女としてあなたに勝ってみせます。
Declaration of war! Oh yeah, we haven't actually got through the festival yet. You got so caught up with everything that happened.
なんでじゃねえよ。お前そんな傷だらけで照明係なんて務まるか。
務まるよ。そんなわざわざ休んだりしなくても。
この忙しい中、厄介事がまた増えるのはごめんだって。美術チームの総意だよ。
また？
ルイがいなくなって急遽変更したところがたくさんあるんだ。
ルイ先輩が？
全く連絡がつかなくて、こんなこと今まで絶対なかったのにな。
多分俺のせいだ。あの人と話したい。
ジュノ？
I would do a wolf whistle right now, but I can't. I don't know how to do one.
衣装とメイク少し変えてもらったんですルイ先輩がいない今だからこそ私たちは手を取り合ってみんなが驚くような最高の舞台にしましょう盛り上がりましょうね
そうだよなそうだ頑張れる
何かが変わっている予感がする。それがいい方向か悪い方向かは一人一人が決めることだけど。
She's definitely a natural leader, I gotta say.
ずっとあの子にある。頑張ってね。
カイ先輩お願いしますね
ああ、任せとき。
周りが絶えず変わり続けても、俺自身はこれからも俺のままで居続けられる。はるちゃん、君がそばにいてくれれば。夕方に告白するから待ち合わせようってはるちゃんに言ったけど、はるちゃん覚えてなさそうだな。
She probably does.
いろいろなことがありすぎた24時間で一気に現実と理想を味わった気がして私一人ではもう足がすくみそう
お、始まったぜ。チェリートン学園の演劇部だ。
Well, it can't be literally at this time, right? Because, if he didn't get into the situation, he would have been working the lights. So it would have been after this performance. Okay. So some kind of inferiority complex?
どうしよう。どこにもいない。まさかまたさらわれたんじゃない？
Is he gonna find Haru and then Juno's gonna see them two up from on stage?
会いたくない。10メートル。いや、もっと遠いかも。20メートル。広場を出たか。はるちゃん。
花鈍ったんじゃない
Don't talk. Don't confess here. Go somewhere alone.
ありがとうございますここでご紹介したい部員がいますある勇敢な行動をとった
What?
オスオオカミです彼は行方不明になった生徒を探し出し命がけで救出したのです
I mean, they were certainly
素晴らしい勇気ある行動です
quite perceptive to actually know where he was.
こちらへ来てください
ジュノさんちょっと俺こんなの聞いてないよ
彼は同じ学校の装飾の生徒
Hmm.
危険を顧みず
I feel like
肉食獣が自分よりも非力な草食獣を常に助けたいと思うのは当然の心理です
Huh.
シンプルな思いやりです
Okay, she's trying to twist.
俺は見てきたんだ。この目で。
私は皆さんに訴えたいのです
肉食獣が抱える本能の恐ろしさを。
肉体の 強さに秘められた可能性、
Or is she actually appealing to the herbivores?
これこそ肉食獣の本質なのです。
Huh. There's like 2 or 3 different layers to this that
私嬉しいです。
I guess it's 2 birds and 1 stone for her.
少しずつ良くなっていけばいいなって小さい頃からずっと思ってた。あ、レゴシ先輩、一緒に火を灯しましょうよ。
ちょっと
Hmm.
恋人同士がやるやつ誤解されるって、こんな目立った後に。
誤解じゃないです。レゴシ先輩、肉食獣の強さは光が当たらない場では輝けません。分かっているでしょう。これからいくら社会の暗闇で戦っても、それはレゴシ先輩の負担になるだけです。怖がられて嫌われて、自分の強さに押しつぶされちゃう、そんなレゴシ先輩見たくないんです。一緒に光のもとに行きましょう。
I mean, what you're saying is certainly very right, but that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be with you, Juno.
なかなかきつかった。だってあまりにもあの2匹がお見合いだったから。見ただけで町の大人たちが拍手を送ってしまうぐらい。狼とウサギなんて誰も祝福してくれない。それにそもそもレゴシ君を独占する権利なんて私にはないわけよ。私が身を引きさえすれば何も問題はない。
Ah, here he is.
はずなのに。
はるちゃん、夜道一匹で歩いたら危ないよ。
本当に物事やられてる。何やってんのよ。あの子残してきたの。さっきの拍手聞いたでしょ。あなたたちは理想のカップルなの。は？バカみたい。私のことはほっといて。
あの子はただの後輩だよ。同じ灰色狼だけど、多分全然考え方が違うんだ。俺はどうしたって少年が暗いから、明るいところでも暗いところでも悩み続けていくだろうし、今までと同じ暗い場所でどうせ悩んでいくなら、これからもはるちゃんのこと込みで悩んでいけば
Yeah.
俺も悩みがいがあるっていうか。
でも私のせいで殺されそうになったり、
The dialogue for this series.
抱えたりしたら申し訳ないわよ。昨夜のホテルで
It is absolutely stellar.
でしょ。
いやー、まあ、ああいうトラブルはみんな起きがちなんじゃないかな。
あんなのとんでもない異常事態よ。体が勝手に食べられようとするなんて。
まあそうだよね。
男女である以前に、あなたは狼、私はウサギなの、永遠に。
実は俺、
Okay, this is the
獅子組にさ、
this is the good atmosphere for a confession.
獲物を奪われた気持ちになったんだ。正直自分でもわからなくて不安だった。本当は君をどういう気持ちで助けたのか。でも今ははっきりわかる。俺ははるちゃんを絶対に食べない。だって
やめて。なんでそんなこと言い切れるの。
今言おうとしてるんだよ。
レゴシ君が正直になればなるほど、私の気持ちも溢れそうになる。大体ね、狼がウサギを食べない保証なんてこの世にはないの。私たちは近づいちゃダメなの。本当はこんなに苦しいの嫌だよ。いっそあなたに食べられた方が楽だよ。
保証はないかもしれないけど、理由があるんだ。単純だけど。
She knows.
どうしてなの。
She's just trying to run away from this confession. Okay, this is the perfect song.
好きだからだよ。はるちゃん、
Legacy, take her hand. Ah! Wait, are we seriously not going to learn about Louis at all? Or maybe at the very end there? Let me mute the song. Well, Juno, I'd say you might have another calling in life. Hmm.
この夏か。スイカ食い損ねたな。
I'd say he's definitely being more positive, more optimistic, and whatnot. We really don't. Ah, there we go. There we go. But isn't this the school? Okay, kind of.
やっと見つけた。みんな探してたよ。早く行こう。
Who is this?
何笑ってるの？
Huh? And there we go, the grand finale to the first season of BEASTARS. Now, I really can't believe that they didn't do anything more with Louis at the very end. I thought for sure that the very ending there, right after the ending song, that would be maybe a sort of teaser to let us know potentially what happened with Louis. At least let us know he's still alive, and maybe he's in some kind of dire state or something like that. I thought for sure that was going to be the ending there, but apparently not. So they are keeping it under perhaps a little bit more, I guess. So yeah, this episode, right? Specifically, there's this entire scene between Legacy and Haru already, but I mean, I think I don't need to praise them anymore. I do really like the sort of dialogue that goes on there. It's something I'll mention a little bit later, how the dialogue, I really like the dialogue for this series, and the different emotions and internal monologues as well. But mostly I want to focus this on Juno for a second here, right? And more specifically, how she treated this whole situation, right? So, one thing that I kept questioning while I was watching her talk was, is she actually more of the scheming bitchy type, right? And I feel like I want to give her the benefit of the doubt right now and say that she is not inherently bad or evil or more on the moralistically ambiguous side, right? And let's just say that she does have the best of intentions at her heart. And so I found the part where she described the entire situation on stage to be quite brilliant, because there's two layers to this, right? One is that it downplays the emotional aspect of the rescue. She's basically saying, maybe in part to the audience, to Legacy, and to herself as well, that hey, it's not anything special. It's just a carnivore is strong, and of course, Legacy being the kind person that he is, he wants to use his power to help someone weaker like a herbivore, right? Like a small rabbit. And so that is really just all that there is to it. It's not anything special. It's not because it's Haru. If it was any other rabbit, he would have done the same thing, right? So that's one part of it. And the second part is, now definitely that part has some maybe more personal motivation behind it. But what I did find kind of interesting as well is the second part of it, and that is to appeal the qualities of carnivores to herbivores, right? Because again, going back to the title of this series, BEASTARS, right? And within this series, the Beastar is supposedly someone who can unify both carnivores and herbivores, and balance out and make it into a more harmonious society, right? And particularly when she, at the end there, when she told Legoshi that this has been a dream or something that she really wanted to do ever since she was a pup, it actually gave me, I'm quite curious as to her backstory now. Like, what was the conditions of her growing up, and why she holds this conviction onto herself, right? And I do believe that it's actually true. It's not something just for personal glory or something like that. Like I said, I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt for at first, and I'd say that I'm treating her as having this, basically she wants to achieve this kind of greatness because she believes that it's right. It's her ideal of justice, right? So anyways, I really just liked how she could use both methods to twist that situation into her advantage, at least mentally, right? I feel like she's also trying to convince herself with this type of belief as well. So yeah, definitely a good a good sort of packaging of the situation, if you will. I also liked her, once they got in front of the lantern or thingamajig or whatever that was. I also liked that little speech she had about staying in the light. Because, again, it works on two different levels. It works both literally and metaphorically, right? So, people are prone to fearing stuff that they don't understand or they can't see. And particularly in the case of Legoshi, I find it even more funny that because they're wolves, right? They actually work better during night because they have good eyesight, etc., etc. But what she's, from a literal standpoint, it's like, yeah, we are strong in darkness, we're strong during the night, but it also makes people fear us, right? People fear wolves at night because that is when they have, their hunting instincts are at max, right? And it's easy for someone who, for normal animals, for normal people who can't see as clearly at night, it's basically like this, it's an unknown, right? This wolf having this huge power advantage over you due to this darkness. And it works in this sort of direct situation, right? In raw strength based on their raw biological differences. And also, think about it for a second. This entire situation with Legoshi going in and rescuing Haru, right? So if we didn't have that entire context here, and if it was just someone who heard from a more layman's perspective, it would be like a delinquent getting caught up in a gang war, right? Why would you associate that? Think about it like this: the story spins at this gray wolf Legoshi, using the cover. During nighttime, when his hunting prowess, when his fighting power is at the highest, got into a sort of like a gang war, a turf fight between the Shishigumi clan, and he took out the entire clan and whatnot, and even went one-on-one with the gang leader, the gang boss, the mafia boss, and literally almost killed him, right? Because biting down on his neck and whatnot. Without the entire context of the situation, you would think, oh damn, this is a violent character, right? He's doing stuff outside the law. He's getting caught up in the underworld of this current world, if we say, getting caught up in these illegal activities, these more gray or even black areas. Versus now that Juno has spun it this way and letting the spotlight shine on Legoshi, he's turned into a hero, right? He's using his powers for good. He's protecting the innocent. He's protecting the weak. He's even though he's a carnivore, he's using the powers on behalf of a herbivore, right? Not for personal gain or anything, but to help the people, right? So instantly, this entire perspective is shifted into that of being a heroic rescue, right? And so this also works with the working in the light and working in the dark, right? So if everybody was kept in the dark about this kind of situation, then there could be this kind of misunderstanding, these kinds of rumors and whatnot surrounding Legoshi. Now that it's been brought to light, you know, the truth has been brought to the light and everything is laid bare, people view him more favorably. So I did like that entire spiel as well. It works in both ways, both in his actions and from a biological standpoint. Now, the one part that didn't make as much sense to me, and probably like one logical flaw in Juno's thinking is, you know, this is all good and all, but what does this have anything to do with Legoshi and you, Juno, being together, right? You know, everything you said before, mentioned before, that is absolutely true. That doesn't make it, you know, there's a big logic leap between that and Juno and Legoshi being together as a power couple, right? I guess in some sort of way, the way that I'm interpreting this is perhaps if Legoshi does get into a relationship with Haru, it's more of a shunned relationship, so they need to keep it on the down low, they need to keep it in the dark, right? Whereas if he was actually together with Juno, they could be the spotlight couple, right? The power couple, and then they would be entirely, you know, revered. They would be a couple of that people can look up to, basically. So I think that is the implication of that there, and I think that is what Juno was trying to get at in that part. Now, with that being said, with the exact same logic, right, with the striving to work and achieve harmony between carnivores and herbivores, I feel like wouldn't that also entail that they would work towards eliminating this type of discrimination, right? So Haru's and Legoshi's relationship doesn't need to be shunned. It doesn't need to be viewed with prejudice, right? If this is truly something that Juno believes in, then she can even use this to sort of dispel this sort of discrimination, right? And that is perhaps true. Like, maybe she knows herself, logically this makes sense. It's that her emotions are clouding her judgment right now due to her wanting to, wanting to get together with Legoshi. So that's my takeaway from this series, and particularly Juno. I mean, from this episode, and particularly from Juno. So, since this is the finale, let's talk a little bit about the series as a whole, right? And I've already mentioned this before, but this is a fantastic series. Definitely a underrated dark. I guess I can't really say it's underrated now. The ratings are great, but it's definitely my dark horse of the season, and also probably my favorite of the season, right? I think initially I didn't even really want to watch this because I wasn't all that interested in these anthropomorphic animals and whatnot. But no, it is quite a clever way the author did, using these different animal races to get through these sort of social concepts, and at the same time, you don't need to worry about offending people, right? Because the way that I'm seeing the author currently write the situation is there's actually no one true right or wrong. At least that's what I'm hoping for. And from my conversation with some of you guys, that's what I believe the mangaka is going for as well. It's not necessarily there's just one direct, one true way, one correct answer to everything here. And so using this sort of parallel to real world problems such as stuff dealing with race and etc., that makes a lot more sense because, you know, people are easily offended these days, right? Even they might not agree with a certain situation, and it can easily turn into a sort of racial war or a whatever kind of differences there are that exist in our world right now. So this is, I feel like, a pretty clever way of skirting around this, and so you can take away the learnings, you can take away your own interpretation from this, and you don't need to get you don't need to offend the more. Now, basically, you guys get what I mean. You don't need to offend people while doing this. And so, yeah. So what I am hoping for is that there is no real right answer, right? Different people have different values and different priorities in life. And the choices should be presented in an unbiased manner. You should lay out all the pros, all the cons of the different decisions and the different positions that you take, and allow people to choose for themselves, right? There's no one right answer to these sort of things, and that's what I really hope from this series, because I'm really sick of having values shoved down my throat, because it's more, particularly for shonen types and whatnot, a lot of times it's just one they want to promote one idealistic moral, and I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. It definitely has its moments, but at the same time, I would like a little bit more balance in terms of all of this. I do love series where things are more morally ambiguous, and there's no correct right or wrong in the different situations here. So I do hope that BEASTARS also goes this route. Beyond this, beyond the actual story and the premise itself, I want to especially praise the dialogue, the character animations, and the music, right? Now, particularly for the dialogue and character animations, there's just so much realism packed within there. The dialogue is definitely one of the more stellar dialogues that I've seen in anime for a long time. Everything feels impactful, it's delivered correctly. I don't feel like I'm watching something written by a middle schooler or something. Like, no offense to middle schoolers, but that is a time when a lot of them are just developing their vocabulary and whatnot. You can particularly see this in bad fan fictions that people write, so on and so forth. The dialogue here is great, right? You can really relate to this, and particularly if you also have experience in some of the stuff here that they're talking about here as well, it just feels real, right? It feels something that you can even say in real life. Of course, it's sort of idealistic as well, kind of. Definitely, most people's lives are not this dramatic and whatnot, but still, it's believable, right? It's not making me want to cringe and throw up. So lots of props to that. And the character animations, I mentioned this before, the body language that they exhibit, the facial expressions, it's really funny how it actually has even better character animations, facial expressions than a lot of different anime that are using real people. And so this again is a big props to the animation team here. And of course, the music, right? Beyond the opening and the ending, I feel like all the music used in the different situations, all the music used in different scenes, were quite fitting as well. It's a nice soundtrack to listen to. So not only the premise, the main story and whatnot, the dialogue is great, the character animations are great. So basically, the animations are great, the script is great, the music is great. It's just overall a very, very solid, and I would even say I would even use great to describe it, anime. So there we go. Of course, there was the action scene that to me was a little bit, the action in episode 10 and 11, which was to me a little bit more off the walls. And I mean, I've already mentioned this at length now. I don't really like that particular scene in regards to raid, but still, I have to concede that it was well animated as well. The contrast, particularly between darkness and light, the series overall has this very nice way of using, I guess, sort of like the veil of darkness, and then showing some particularly eyes and whatnot and claws, and animating them coming out from the darkness. It definitely has a good style there that is quite aesthetically pleasing to look at, even though again I have some complaints about the actual premise there. So yeah, there you go. That's my review of BEASTARS as a whole, and you can definitely count on me to watch the second season when it does come out. This has definitely been one of my favorites so far, and probably my anime of this season as well. So there we go. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Feel free to check out all my other works as well. I do like to get a little bit more in depth into these series and talk a little bit more about what's going on and different interpretations of this. I don't really brand myself as a reaction channel since well, you guys can see my reaction. I typically don't react much. I'm a bit more calm, chill, or some might even say a bit more boring in terms of this. But if you do like the discussions at the very end, feel free to check out my other work as well. So there we go. Hopefully I will see you guys again sooner or later, and hope you guys have a great new year. See you guys in 2020. This is Maverick signing off.